guys, so today I'm going to talk about the structure of protein. So the basic unit of protein is an amino acid, and this is its structure. So it consists of an amine group, NH2, central carbon connected to a hydrogen atom and a variable group, and a carboxyl group, which is C double bond OOH. So amino acids will form dipeptides when they undergo a reaction called hydrolysis. And in this reaction, what happens is the removal of water. As you can see, these are two amino acids. When water is removed, they form a peptide bond. So dipeptides can then form polypeptide chains, and these are amino acids that are linked together by, as we know, peptide bonds, and they form linear sequences. So now that we know how polypeptide chains are formed, then we need to know that there are 4 structures of protein. So there are primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary structures. So for primary structure, it's actually, like we discussed, the polypeptide chain. So the definition is a linear sequence of amino acids linked together by peptide bonds. And something we have to know is that different sequence of amino acids will form different proteins. We know that there are around 20 different amino acids, and when they're arranged differently, they'll form a large variety of proteins. Next, for secondary structure, this is basically the primary structure being either coiled or folded into 2 secondary structures, either alpha helix or beta pleated sheet. And these 2 structures have something in common, which is hydrogen bonds. So, an alpha helix is a polypeptide chain coiled into this structure, and this structure is held together by hydrogen bonds between every 3rd amino acid. So the hydrogen bonds will form like this. Then an example would be keratin. And then for beta pleated sheet, it will form a folded sheet like this, where there are actually 2 polypeptide chains that run parallel to each other. But the difference is that they're going to be moving in opposite directions. Then once they're folded into this shape, hydrogen bonds between the 2 chains will hold it in this position. So an example of this would be silk. Moving on to tertiary structure, this is the folding and coiling of secondary structures to form a complex 3D shape. So you can remember this by relating tertiary, 3 and 3D. So you can find several bonds in a tertiary structure, namely disulfide bonds, which can form between 2 cysteine amino acids. Cysteine is just a name for the amino acid that has the sulfur in it. So the disulfide bonds will form between the 2 sulfur atoms. And this bond is actually a covalent bond. So it's very strong and hard to break. And unlike disulfide bonds, ionic bonds are very easy to break, and a lot of the time are temporary. So they're between positive and negative ions on separate molecules. And then thirdly, it would be hydrophobic interaction. So over here, we have a polar molecule with a hydrophobic part and a hydrophilic part. So when it comes in contact with water, what this molecule will do is try to arrange itself in a way that the hydrophobic part will move as far away from water as possible. So this coiling of the molecule is called the hydrophobic interaction. Lastly, we have hydrogen bonds, which we're all familiar with, which is between a hydrogen atom of one molecule and the oxygen atom of another molecule. And lastly, we have the quaternary structure. So it's basically two or more polypeptides that are chemically bonded together. And amongst quaternary structures, there can also be proteins that contain a non-protein group, such as an iron group, and these are called conjugated proteins. And this non-protein group can also be known as a prosthetic group. So among the quaternary structures you have to know would be hemoglobin and collagen. Just a brief overview of them would be that hemoglobin has 2 alpha helices and 2 beta pleated sheets, and also 4 heme groups that each contain iron ions. And the iron ions would each bind to 1 oxygen molecule. So in total, 1 hemoglobin would be able to bind with 4 oxygen molecules. For collagen, this is 3 alpha helices wound together to form a fibrous protein, and this provides mechanical structure in our bodies. So yeah, that is the structure of proteins. Thank you for watching.